Hello, dear book dragons. Happy August. I've been away. I've had 2 weeks up in the north of Sweden with my boyfriend, visiting his parents. So that's why I haven't been able to make a film until now. I came home yesterday and I've been doing so many nice things. If you know who Jonna Jinton is, who's one of Sweden's most famous YouTubers. She's an artist. She does necklaces. And I bought this beautiful necklace called Wild, and also some of her art, but only a postcard. Nothing big, really. Yeah, well, anyway, I'm going to talk about the books I read in July. I read 8 books. And before I go to the books, I also wanted to show you this sticker book. I don't remember if I have shown you this book before. I think I might have. Well, it has over 500 unique stickers and so beautiful fairy stickers. And I use them in my book diary. So it really gives my diary such a lovely, magical feeling. I also have other stickers too, of course. So these ones are not from that book. It gives more like a summery cute feeling. But then I have these that are from that book then. So I'll show you some more. Just started this for August. And I realized it's better to put in some stickers first, because otherwise I'll stop writing and I won't have any space for stickers. So that's my tip if you want to use stickers in a book diary. And yeah, let's go to the books I read in July. And the first one is it's I read in Swedish, and it's a French book, so I don't know exactly what's it called in French. Allt är blå på himlen. So in English that would be all the blue on the sky. And the French title is, oh, doesn't say. That's strange. It usually says somewhere in the start. The book here starts. Oh, here. Tout le bleu du ciel. I don't speak French. I don't know if I said that right, but I think so. Tout le bleu du ciel. All the blue on the sky, in the sky. And this was such a beautiful and very sad romantic story. I gave it 5 stars. It's really a unique book. It's about 2 people. One, a young man called Emil, who has just recently got a very severe Alzheimer's disease, and his family wants him to take all the tests he can in this hospital, but he has like 2 years to live, and he doesn't want to spend, oh sorry, there's a police or something outside. I'll just wait until that's over. Oh. Sounds like it's quite near. Fortunately, it has happened quite a lot of horrible things near here. Not just where I live, but near this summer. No, stop now. So, yes, Emil has 2 years to live, and he just wants to leave everything and go hiking in the French mountains. So he has bought like a, what's it called in English? Well, a big car you can live in, like a bus. Oh yeah, like this is a, you can see it's not a real bus, but yeah, he has bought that, but he wants to go with someone because he knows he will lose his memory more and more, and he doesn't want to go on his own. So he kind of advertises for someone who is strong and fit and can walk on long hikes and not afraid of him getting sick, kind of. And he obviously thinks no one is going to answer this. But actually a young woman does, and he wants to meet her first, but she lives so far away from him. So she said, I'll come, I'll meet you, and we'll just go. And he's like, okay. And she arrives, and she's a very shy little young woman. She's tiny, so he's like, but how she's going to be able to carry heavy stuff? But she is really strong. But it's obvious that she has a very dark mental load herself. And so this book is about their friendship and about their stories. You get to read back in his memories and in her memories, and at the same time hear about this beautiful countryside in France where they're walking. So it's just a beautiful book. Oh, sorry. A beautiful book, and she is a big reader, like me. And so she cites these different authors, and these beautiful citations. Do you see? Is that the right word? Well, I think you know what I mean. And yeah, so it's lovely in many ways, and she really invites him to start writing, so he will, even if he doesn't remember his family, can see the future, what he's actually done. And he doesn't call them in weeks. Finally, he does write them a letter, but he does start writing, and it's just a lovely, lovely book. So enough about that. And then I read, I don't have it here because it was a library book, The Raven Scholar by Antonia Hodgson. And apparently it's the start of a series. I didn't know that, so I'll have to kind of wait a year until I can read the next book. It was really good. I give it 4.5 stars, and has some romance in it. But I wouldn't say that it's a lot of romance. It's more about the world building. It has a really fascinating world building, and Nema Kra is the scholar, and the book starts with not about her. The book starts with a princess whose father kind of tried to overtake the empire, and because he failed, his family is of course shamed for being the traitor's family. And this princess and her twin brother and their mother are summoned to the empire, and to see the emperor, and for some strange, horrible reason, this young girl, her brother has always been envious about her, that she was closer to her father and stronger and everything. It's kind of complicated, but it ends up with her brother kind of sending her away to her death. She becomes a traitor for some kind of very strange reason. So the emperor is really the evil guy here. Her brother as well, but the emperor more, I would say. So that's how the book starts, with this young girl being sent away for her death. So we don't get to see her die. We just get to see that she's sentenced, and then after that we get to follow Nema, who is the scholar, who unfortunately had to write the whole letter about this prince's horrible deed. And that's how she kind of becomes famous and becomes the emperor's new friend. I mean, she didn't really want to do it, but she didn't have a choice. And she kind of, because she's a scholar and she's really interested in history, and the emperor is also interested in history. So that's kind of how they become friends. And for me, it felt so strange that she could look up to him after knowing what he had done to this young girl. For me, that was really, really weird. I mean, she just kind of pretended it didn't happen, even if she's kind of shunned by the whole society because of this, which isn't her fault either, because she didn't have a choice. So everyone just pretends the emperor is a good, fine person. Well, apparently, most definitely, he is not. Oh, it's so weird. But this book is about a competition, because as an emperor, you're not allowed to be an emperor forever. I think you have to, after 24 years, you have to give over to someone else. So, in this world, there are like 8 divinities, gods and goddesses, but they're not really called that. They're more like, it's different animals. It's the raven, obviously, the fox, the bear, the hound, the tiger, ox, and dragon. So, and everyone kind of belongs to one. And everyone is a competitor except the dragon, because the dragon people are the people who have magic, and they stay on their own little island. And but they do send a proxy competitor, and for a lot of different strange reasons, Neema gets to be the raven competitor. She wasn't supposed to be. The person who was supposed to be the competitor are killed, and Neema has to find out who it is, or she will be kind of, people think she did it, because the one competing for the raven, they were not friends at all. It's a very complicated story. It's kind of difficult to talk about it. I could talk about it forever. But as I said, it's about the competition. It's about the politics. It's about all these different, the fox and the raven, and her best friend, who used to be her best friend anyway, and has been away for years. He is the fox competitor, and what's his name? Cain, and yeah, they have a lot of feelings for each other. So it's also a love story, even if it's kind of in the background, I would say. So it's about betrayals, love, competition, murder, and mystery, and it's a lot of twists and turns, and it's, yeah, you have to be sharp when you read it. I really, really enjoyed it. So, yeah, I gave it 4.5, but now when I talk about it, maybe more like 4.8. I mean, I took it down just because for me, it wasn't logical that she looked up to the emperor. That for me was so strange, and there was something else as well that I can't tell you about. And I kind of forgotten as well. So let's go on. Then I read another book that I don't have here. I read it out on the country house. It's a book that belongs in that house. It's the Astrid Lindgren story, Madicken och Junibackens Pims. So it's a book about Madicken and her little sister Elizabeth, but she's called also Junibackens Pims. And it's just so sweet and funny, but also kind of sad. There are some sad parts, but it's also a very summery book. So it was so lovely to sit out on the veranda, looking out at the nature and reading about the nature in the book about Madicken. And I gave it 5 stars. I mean, Astrid Lindgren is our most beloved author in Sweden, so of course. And this book also is signed by Astrid Lindgren. I had to ask my mom's man if he knew who got this book, who got it signed, but he didn't know about it. He was really surprised about the signing, actually. And it just says Astrid Lindgren and hey. It's kind of funny. So I assume you can find it outside of Sweden. So I don't know what Madicken is called in English, if she has another name. But there are several books about her, and this is, I think, the second book I read. And then I read Trollkarlsliv by Diana Wynne Jones, and it's called Charmed Life. Is the English title. And we, in one of the book clubs I'm in, Christy Jones and Christy Ann Jones, we had this as one of the books we could choose to read in July, but there was another book that was chosen, which I'll talk about later. But I really found this intriguing, so I borrowed it from the library, so I have to give it back tomorrow. And this was a really fun and kind of dark story, actually. I gave it 5 stars, and it's about a young boy called Cat. It's not his real name, obviously. And his sister Gwendolyn, who's a witch, and a really nasty, maybe not evil. Yeah, she kind of becomes evil. She gets worse and worse through the book. They lost their parents when they were really young, so they live with a witch she's nice to them anyway, in the little village where kind of everyone is a wizard or witch. And this is in England, but it's kind of like not our world, and it takes a while to know it, but there are parallel worlds in this story. And this is the first book in a series, so I really want to read the rest. And you can apparently read them in different orders, a little bit complicated. So I hope I'll find them at the library as well. I really try to find all the books I want to read at the library if I can. And it's usually easier to find older books, obviously. I mean, new printed books, you can't, or at least not here in Sweden, you can't find them at the library, not yet. So when I buy books, I buy new books. Anyway, so this is it's kind of a weird book. Gwendolyn writes a letter to this really famous magician who kind of knew their parents somehow, and so suddenly he comes and collects them, and they have to live with him. And Gwendolyn really wants to go in the beginning, and Cat doesn't want to because he's kind of happy where they are. And they come to this big mansion, and there's kind of a little creepy feeling there. At least Gwendolyn feels it creepy. So you don't really know who's good and who's bad in this story. Not in the beginning, anyway. And yeah, it's entertaining. I kind of quite early thought, well, I think Cat has magical abilities as well. It would be strange if it didn't. And I was right, obviously. But he doesn't know it. And I think what I liked most in this book is this mystical garden in this where the magician lives, and so you can't really. It's difficult to get there. You have to. They walk and they see it and they're close, and suddenly they're not close, and it's like this all the time. I really like that, and I really liked when he did magic without knowing he did magic. I did not like Gwendolyn at all. She's kind of no empathy at all. I think this is the worst, most horrible sister I've ever read about, ever. And this is a children's book. A little bit weird, but I enjoyed it. Yeah. So maybe not for small kids. Or maybe that would kind of go over their heads. I don't know. Then I read a Kate Morton book, and Kate Morton is one of my favorite authors. I found this at the library for like 5 Swedish crowns, so that's very cheap. I mean, if I read a book by an English author, I do want to read it in English, but as it was so cheap, I was like, I'll buy it and see how it is. And I think they've done a really good job with the writing it in Swedish, and it's called The Lake House in English. And this, as every Kate Morton book, it's set in 2 times, and you get to follow quite a lot of people in this book. The people living in this big mansion in the 1930s, I think, and but also a young policewoman in our time, 2015, something like that. And this young policewoman has been taken off a case where she became too personally involved, and said, well, you have to go on holiday. So she goes to Cornwall to live with her grandfather, and finds this mansion by the lake, and stumbles into this old mystery, because in the 1930s, where we follow a young girl and you follow also her mother, her youngest brother, her only brother, who was like 2 years old, goes missing. So the whole book is kind of about this mystery about the missing brother at Midsummer. And Kate Morton is so good at making you confused. I mean, a lot of books that I read, I can see immediately who the abductor was, or who the murderer was, or who did what. But Kate Morton is so good at confusing you. And I found it a bit slow at some points. It took me a while to read it, actually. But I don't know why. I mean, it wasn't boring at all. It just took me time to read. I mean, it's quite a thick book. It's 400 something probably, or 500 pages. Oh, 400. Yeah, I gave it 4.8 stars. So if you haven't read anything by Kate Morton, I really, really, really recommend her. And I probably would say read The Clockmaker's Daughter. That's the first book I read, and the one I liked most. Not this book, but several of her books are kind of also a bit mysterious. I mean, it's not just a mystery, but it's also kind of a little bit spooky without being scary. I wouldn't say this is spooky though. Yeah. Okay, let's go on. Then I read Orlando. I also borrowed this from the library, by Virginia Woolf. I give it 4 stars. It's difficult to grade this book because it's beautiful writing, but so confusing for me to read. Half of the time, no more. 3/4 of the time I was like, what did I read? I don't remember what I just read. Had to reread quite a lot. And yeah, it's a weird but beautiful book. And some parts are just beautiful. Well, it's about Orlando, who is born, I'm not sure exactly, beginning of the 1600s, I guess. And well, Virginia wrote this book about, so Orlando is kind of her lover. It's a love letter to Vita Sackville West. So the character Orlando is based on her, really. And Orlando lives for several hundreds of years, like 300-400 years, something. Ends in the 1930s, at the time where Virginia Woolf lived. And Orlando is like almost royal, well, and he is obsessed by writing. He wants to be a writer. He doesn't really care so much about the parties and the rich and stuff, but he does fall in love with this Russian princess, but she kind of fools him, and after that he shuns society and gets depressed and goes to sleep for a week and wakes up as a woman. No. Yes? No. No, he doesn't. Not yet, sorry. That's later. I think 2 times then he falls asleep and wakes up again after a week and are like a new person, I would say. It's the first time he hasn't changed sex, but the second time he wakes up as a woman. And that's really, I would say that's when the interesting part starts, when you understand how difficult it is to be a woman in a world of men. But it also, I wanted to read a quote, which I've written down, because, I mean, she is obsessed of writing and poetry, I would say. She began to think, was nature beautiful or cruel? And then she asked herself what this beauty was. Whether it was in things themselves or only in herself. So she went on to the nature of reality, which led her to truth, which in its turn led to love, friendship, poetry, as in the days on the high mound at home. Which meditations, since she could impart no word of them, made her long, as she never longed before, for pen and ink. And for me it was this, if beauty is the things themselves or in herself, like what it actually is or what I see. I really like that, because I mean the beauty is in the beholder, right? So I can, if I don't really look, I can just go past things. I don't see the beauty, but if I learn to appreciate everything, I can see the beauty in almost anything. So I thought that was lovely. Yeah. So if you're very good at focusing while you read, read it. And even if you're not, you could try. I know, because we read this in the book club, I wasn't the only one who found it difficult to read, but it can be worth to try and just to see how Virginia Woolf's writing is. And I've tried other books by her and given up quite quickly, but I didn't give up on this, so I would say this was more interesting than the other books I tried. Anyway, then I read Blood over Brighthaven, which I've been looking forward to a long time, by Emma Wong. A 5-star book. Yes. And this is a unique fantasy book, I would say. It's kind of dark. And I would say it's kind of a lot of critique to our world. I mean, it's set in another world, but there's many fantasy books. It is kind of a critique of our own world, obviously, as it often is. And this is about a young woman called Skiona, who is trained herself in magic, and the magic system in this world is very different. It's like It's like physics. It's like computer science kind of, but on a old-fashioned. Oh, there's a picture of it. Old-fashioned typewriter. So they use this something called the spelograph. That was kind of fascinating. So I didn't always understand what they were talking about, but I guess most of it was made up anyway. So it's not real physics, I guess. I don't know. But yeah, it's really about being a woman in a man's world again. And she's been working so hard her whole life to become a high magician. And no women, this is the first time a woman gets to get so high as she gets in the society, because they have like a lot of different education stuff. And her world, or her city, I mean, her whole world is her city, because outside of her city there's like this magical bubble over the city that protects them from the blight, from the cold, from everything dangerous, really. And so we get to follow her, and then before we follow her, we also follow a young man who lives outside the city, when he and his tribe tries to get into the city. And most of them, well, all of them are killed, except him and his niece. And that chapter is so hard to read. It's so horrible. It's really, really horrible. So it's a dark world. And yeah, it's a horrible, it's a horrible world. And I don't want to tell you too much, but he because he is from outside, his people are kind of shunned in this society. But so you have to have a job to stay. So it's about refugees, really. And about some people having a really good life, and most people not. And being a woman is so hard. And she's not really a nice person in the beginning. She is, her whole life she's been so focused on just her magic. And so her cousin and her aunt, who she lives with, they take care of everything for her, and she's not very good at thanking them for that. So, but she becomes more and more realistic, I would say, about normal people's lives through this book. So she grows. And yeah, I don't want to say anymore. I'll just say read it. It's amazing. It is dark, so just know that while going into it. But it is really, really amazing. It was my only complaint is I wanted to read more. I want to know what happens later, kind of. So that's that one, and then we come to the last book, which was totally different from that book. I needed something more sweet and romantic. It is some romance in that book as well, but which also makes it even more sad. Anyway, I read The Rose Garden by Susanna Kearsley, who is one of my favorite authors. Oh yeah, sorry, I want to say I have read another book by her before. What's it called? Oh yeah, The Sword of Kagan. So yeah, I had already read the book, and that is also such a good book. I would say in some ways I like The Sword of Kagan more, because it's more kind of epic. Yeah, I can't really compare them. Anyway, so yeah. So back to the Rose Garden. This is a very sweet romantic book, and set in our time and in 2015 and 1715. And we follow a young woman who, in the beginning of the book, loses her sister, who I think she had cancer. So it's this kind of sad start, which is a little bit shocking first, but yeah. Because of her sister's death, her husband tells her, oh, well, you have to take her ashes and spread them where she was the happiest. Which reminds her of Cornwall, where they grew up. So she goes to Cornwall to, I guess, I mean, it's relatives of her. It's a little bit difficult because they don't really say exactly, but I think it's her cousins. It's kind of a little bit confusing, but I guess it is. And this is this big house in Cornwall where she spent her summers as a child. And so it's about the people living there, her cousin and her cousin's stepmother. And they're just so lovely, sweet people. Just so nice to read about lovely people. Quite often you read about really these dark stories, and evil people, and so this is kind of was a breath from that. And all her books are set in historical times, and often, but not always, also in our time. But most of her books that I read are set in Scotland. So this is the first one I read that's set in Cornwall, and I just love reading about Cornwall. I've never been to Cornwall, but I read a lot of books set there. So this was the second book in July that was set in Cornwall. Anyway, so suddenly she's transported back in time, and she can't control it at all. The first time she doesn't understand what happens, and it's really quick, and it's over and she's back in our time, and it's always connected to the house. And then when she actually really goes there, she meets this man who she's immediately attracted to. And I mean, because she comes in its modern clothes, a bit confused. She thinks he is a ghost, obviously. And she's like, "You're not real." And he's like, "Okay, I am real." So that's kind of interesting. Well done. Not just assume that everything is magic is normal. Yeah, so it's a love story through time, and it's really interesting that she can't control when she goes and when she comes back. And when she comes back, no time has passed, so the people around her in our time doesn't know she's been back in time. And in the 1700s, or 1800s, as you say in English, it's confusing for me. These people living in the house, this is the man she falls in love with, and his brother, and a friend who's fiercely protective. They kind of pretend that she is the friend's sister from Ireland for people who come there. And there's this policeman who is not a nice person at all. So they pretend that she is mute, and that she's the sister with his friend. And they're also really lovely people. I mean, the only horrible person in this book is this policeman. So there is a scene or two which is not very nice, but otherwise it's just a lovely, lovely book, and there's an interesting twist at the end. And I give it 5 stars because I love Susanna Kingsley, and such a beautiful writing, so descriptive, and this bit of magic, and the time traveling, and just beautiful story, and the friends she gets in both times. And there's a man in our time that he falls for her, but she doesn't, because she's loving the man from the old time. Yeah, I don't want to say anymore, but if you want to read a really sweet romance and it's not descriptive in a sexual way, so yeah, read it. So that was the books I read in July, and I've already read two really good books in August. It would be really nice to know what books you read, what you enjoyed most. It's difficult to say what I enjoyed most. I would say The Rose Garden and Blood Over Brighthaven and the French book. Well, I mean, I gave 4 books 5 stars, so I enjoyed them all. Thank you. Bye.